Hi, everyone. I am so excited to have Raschell here with us today. And she is actually going to share some secrets with regards to numbers and how numbers actually play an extremely important role in our life, as in this book, the Dragon Activation Light Codes book that I am about to launch on September the 25th. Rochelle picked that date for me. So it wasn't a random date. And she is going to share with us more about numbers. But before we start, Rochelle, could you kind of introduce yourself and then let's jump right in?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Raschell Harlingten. I'm the founder of Roots for Success, my company where we empower people to understand, to recognize, to realign, and to rewrite their stories, their life. Over the years, so probably like more than 20, I have used numerology to guide my life because it has supported me in so many ways. I'm also a podcaster of the Transformational Soul Talks, which Lily has been a beautiful guest on, and that streams on Spotify. And I love to share people's stories because I'm all about the transformation. I'm also a co author with Lily of The Journey of Transformation and my own book called The Prosperity Blueprint, and a few anthologies, which you can find all on Amazon on my author's page. So, that in a nutshell is a little bit about me.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, share with us what. Okay, first secret first. I know there are many, many, many. You have so many. You know so much about numerology. It's just incredible because you know about this ever since you learned about this ever since you were little, right?
Right. So, my father, who was at the time a telecommunications engineer, extremely quick with numbers. He came home one day when I think I was about 14, and he was like, "All right, we're going to change our names." And of course, what teenager wouldn't want to change their name? Because I didn't like the name that they gave me anyway. So he tried to explain a little bit about what we were doing and why we were changing it, and explained to us that you can never change your birth date because that is the date that your soul chooses to come in, and that's the expression based on your birth date when you add it up. But you can always change your name. And in a nutshell, if you go back to Pythagoras, you go back to the Babylonians, you go back to the Vedas, all of that had the same type of information around numerology, quantum physics. Everything in the universe is energy. So it's all based on mathematical formulas. And so when you choose a name, you start to create the plane of the mind of the person you want to be, the traits, the health traits, the personality, the expression on how you're going to show up. Even though your soul has chosen, I want to experience this, because there's nine, in a nutshell, I'll just say there's nine cycles, 1 to 9. And every number in the universe breaks down to one of those numbers. So you go through, and your soul says, "Oh, I want to be a 5. This is what I'm going to express as a 5. I want to be a 4. I'm going to express a 4." And but then you give yourself a name, and then that name is the plane of the mind. What it does is, as I said, it creates all your traits. Some of them may not be good, because if the name is unbalanced or the name has a really bad vibration, there's a lot of things that can happen, and it affects what you want to experience. And it's not good or bad in a sense, but it just means that you don't always end up having the best sort of like balanced life, because the name is unbalanced with your birth path. So that in a nutshell is kind of a little bit about it. So my father changed our first and our last names, so that was big. And I didn't really quite understand it, but fortunately enough, I moved away. I went to Europe, and I had to start calling myself the new name. And so for the first little bit, it was a little weird because it was like I kept remembering, oh, yeah, that's my name. Yeah, I got to turn around. Yeah, hi, that's me. Yeah, because I was so used to the old name. And then I started to really like it. And what my father would do is I went to school overseas every 6 months or 4 months. When I would come home, he would say to me, keep a light journal while you're away. And then I'm going to get you to listen to something when you come home and compare it. And I kid you not, it was so bang on. Now, it didn't go into great, like, specific detail exactly what happened each day, but it would give me an overall energy of each month and kind of what would
Mm.
happen. And I was comparing it to my journal and I was thinking, wow, this is so bang on. And I didn't know that he had those tapes. Like, I didn't know that had made them and had written everything down. It can get right down to the day and what's going on and what's going to happen, what are the energies, because mathematics is, as we all know, it's very specific. And I think that's why my father liked it, was because he was very good at math, like very, very good at math. So I used it for a long time to guide my life. And then I remember when I got married for the second time, I decided, no, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Well, I guess that was my lesson. Because I got married, not knowing anything about, like, I knew the person, but I didn't do his numbers. About a year and a half into the marriage, I went to see my father out in British Columbia, and that's where he lives now. And he said, "Oh, are you going to share with me your husband's date of birth and name?" And I was like, all right, then fine, here." And he goes, "Oh, he's this, and oh, you got married in this year, and oh, this is not good." And I was like, oh God. And so literally less than probably 4 years later, I was divorced. And it wasn't that I had put that already in my head. It's just, and because I tried to make it work, but it just, the numbers, no matter what happened, it just kept getting worse and worse. We were already having a little bit of issues at the beginning, way before I even went to see my dad. And I think that's why I gave up the numbers, just to see. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to be divorced. And so I was. I mean, I'm still really good friends with the person, but now that I look at his numbers, I look at the date that we got married, I look at everything, and I could see that it just wasn't meant to be. And then I've seen my father did this for me. I think back in 2007, I started working for a company, and he said, "Oh, that's nice. Okay, enjoy your job." And then I think I got pregnant sort of into the year, and he said to me, he said, no, I think it was 2 or 3 years after. That's right, 2 or 3 years after, he said to me, "This company's not going to do well." And I said, "Well, why would you say that? Why didn't you tell me at the beginning?" He goes, "Well, I'm not going to tell you that when you've started a brand new job." He said, "The company, when did he start it?" And he started calculating everything out. He said, "No." He said, "Within a year, it's going to go bankrupt." And within a year, that company went bankrupt. And so I was like, wow. And so that's how I've seemed to be so bang on with certain things. I've given him numbers of people that he doesn't even know. And he's just looked at their date of birth, their name, and he's come back with all of this stuff. And it's like, it's the person. And my dad doesn't even know who they were. So I studied with him. I began to teach myself. I began to learn, and I started to guide my life by it. So I made specific choices: when to launch products, how to name my business. My first business, my first entrepreneurial business, was specifically, we sat down and we calculated everything out to make sure that it was prosperous and abundant. When it overall destiny number, when you add all the letters up. And so even in my second business, same thing. We did the exact same thing because we wanted to make sure that the company was abundant. And so this has become sort of, a guide. Even with my children, I'll be like, "Oh, you're in this year, you're in this cycle. Maybe not the best time to get on a plane or to drive. Be careful, take your time this month. This vibration for this month is not the best for you." And then I remember my son, and this was just a few months ago, he calls me, he goes, "Ma, is this a bad month for me?" And I go, "Why?" He goes, "I've almost been in 3 accidents so far." I was like, I told you to slow down and not drive crazy. So Yeah, it's so
Mm.
bang on. So my
That's
belief in it.
absolutely, yeah, so fascinating, right? So fascinating. And it is, um, it's like so accurate as well, right? It's really, truly, truly fascinating. And so tell us more, like how, where do we start? How do we explore? Like you mentioned that birthday is, you cannot change
Yes,
that.
you
So
cannot
everything
change it
starts
because
maybe with a birthday,
with
maybe
your date of birth, right? So
date of birth. Okay.
if you're curious, I you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Raschell Harlingten on YouTube, and there is about 3 or 4 videos there about numerology. But your first is your date of birth. So when you calculate that down, which is adding all the numbers, and remember, every number is broken down to a single digit between 1 and 9. So if you take all the numbers of your month, your day, and your year, and you add them all together, and then you go down to a single digit, that is the expression that your soul chose to experience. And like I said, you can go to my YouTube channel. There's a whole thing on how to break it down. But once you do that, now you know, okay, well, I chose to come into this lifetime and I chose a 1. Ones are all about expression, they're all about exploration, they're all about very, very straightforward. They don't want to mess around with anything. They're very direct people. So ones are all about the beginning. This is sort of the beginning of everything. Twos, in a nutshell, twos are called the counselors. They are the public speakers. They are the they're good as politicians, they're good as teachers, they're good as counselors. That's sort of what the 2 expresses. I'm giving you a very short synopsis here. 3 is the celebrity, it's the musician, it's the person who's the artist. That's what threes are about. And if you look at many of the famous artists, most of them are probably threes. um, 4 is the investigator. 4 is all about being investigating and being very factual. My daughter's a four, and she's like, everything has to be detailed. Like everything has to run a process, and they'll look at everything through the process before they'll make a decision. And you can never rush a 4. Fours don't like to be rushed. They like to methodically think through things before they get on to what they want to choose. Then you go on to the 5. The 5 is like loves freedom and will like hop on a plane. They'll, explore this side of the world. They'll make a decision. They love freedom and they love to constantly change. They'll be, doing one thing and then kind of like squirrel, squirrel. They'll be over there and they'll be like, oh, let's try this now. And then you have the, he says, sounds like the witness protection program. What was that in reference to?
I think that was a while back, when we
Oh,
just first started.
oh,
Maybe no, no, maybe not a while back. Just maybe 10 minutes ago,
okay.
7 minutes ago,
I don't
roughly.
know
I
what
don't
we
know.
were talking about, but okay. And then you have the sixes. The sixes are the stable. They are the diplomat. They are the ones that want to keep everything sort of, stable and secure. They're very they're survivors. A 6, if you have a 6 in your midst, everything is always taken care of. They're very gentle. They can be very helpful, want to help everybody, very supportive. The 7s are very, they're philanthropy. They're secretive. They think about things. They won't tell you everything right away. They kind of keep it to themselves. They're always looking for the answers beyond the answers. And then you have the 8. The 8 is all business minded. Everything is, driven towards the business, driven towards making money, driven towards succeeding in whatever business. And then you have 9s, and 9s are the spiritual leaders. Usually, they are very, very. Um, it's a hard life to live because you're always looking for the answers, and you're sort of caught between the 2 realms of trying to live in this 3D reality, but you also are connected um, in so many other realms, and so you're sort of trying to find that balance. So I hope that gives you an idea sort of what our souls want to experience. It goes into a lot more detail. And with that, you express all different traits and different things with those numbers. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, actually, it's definitely does because there's a place that we can start if we wanted to dive into it. What about the master numbers, the 1 1 and the 2 2 and the 3 3? Because I think I might be a 3 3. Does it add up to 6
So
or is it a 3 3?
it well, typical yes. So you would have more, so you would still bring it down to a 6, but you would carry, I'm not sure on the 33s, but I know the 11s because I'm a master 11, but I bring it down to a 2. So I'm a 2, but at the same time an 11. So those I don't use as much in, so the type of numerology that I have studied for over 20, 30 years is the one that was taught by Pythagoras. And so the master numbers there are, but I believe the 1 1s, the 11s, carry both the traits of the male and the female, meaning that they carry the strengths from both male and female. They kind of understand both sides. I believe the 22s, I'd have to double check, but I believe the 22s are more feminine. And then I'm not quite sure what 33. If I'd known that question, I would have looked it up because I'm still trying to learn some of that stuff. There's some of the things that I don't quite understand there, but most of the basics, 1 to 9, I know like the back of my hand. But I just started delving into some of those because my father and I never really looked at that. So sorry, I can't really respond exactly to that.
No, that's okay. Thank you. Stephen, I'm just reading the comment. Stephen says the name change. So he's referring to back then the witness protection program.
No.
I think we were talking about name. We were talking about name change.
Oh, I changed my name. You know what? That's funny, Stephen, because people used to say that to me. They're like, "Are you in the witness protection program? Is that why you changed your first and last name?" And I was like, "Nah." It's like my dad just did it because of numerology. And then I had people that were like, "Oh, is he a hippie?" I was like, "No, my dad's a telecommunications engineer. He's like the farthest from a hippie." So, but he liked numbers. He liked numbers. So, uh,
Yes. And and maybe can you give us some tips? Because I know there are probably a lot of authors out there that is watching right now. So they want to perhaps pick a launch date like what you have done for me. And
mhm.
so what do they need to know? Like, I mean, definitely the easiest way is to everyone, if you're looking for a particular number or date, connect with Raschell. It's the easiest way, and she book a session with her. That would definitely be the easiest. But could you give us a little bit of background, like what does it involve, and
Sure,
yeah.
sure. And if you want to throw up my website in there, which is the same, it's RaschellHarlingten.ca, so you can reach out to me there and we can have a chat. Okay, so ultimately, in a nutshell, this is how it works. Once I take a look at your birth date, I then figure out what cycle you're in. Because again, you go through 9 cycles, right? And each of those cycles is a learning lesson over a period of 9 years. And then you start it again and again and again until you pass. But during those cycles, we then go into each individual. Oh, you forgot the G. I've got a new name. So as I was saying, you go into those cycles, and those cycles are again 1 to 9, and then we look at each of those months and we see where you are, because each month, based on, say you're in a 5 year, you're going to have certain vibrations each month which are going to test you, which are going to give you what you need to move forward. So I then take a look at each month. So say you say to me, you know what, Raschell, I want to launch my book, or I want to launch this event in November. I would look at your cycle, where you are first of all in your life. I would ask you probably, when did you start this business? Because ultimately you want to start your business in a 1 to maybe 2 year. You don't want to go past that, because it's again based on Gaia, it's based on the seasons. You know, you would not, and I love this. My friend Lubana said that she says it's the best suggestion, or what's the word I'm looking for? Um, I can't think of the word, but she said it was the best way to describe it. You would not take tulip bulbs in the middle of January and go dig a hole in your garden and start burying them, hoping that they would bloom a month later. So the
Hmm,
same is
okay.
with
It's a good
the
analogy.
seed.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the word I was looking for. Analogy.
Uh,
So the same would
okay.
go, think about it. Think of the seasons. You plant the seed begins to grow. You have this changes of weather. It kind of, you have drought, you have rain, and then it starts to bud. Then it has the flower, and then the flower turns into the fruit, and then you reap your harvest. You have to go through those cycles, even if they're done in a small period when you're planting a plant. Everything in Gaia is cycles. Everything has a process. Nature doesn't alter that. We as humans do, but nature does not. So the numbers run the same way. You run in cycles. So I would then look at where you are in your cycle. I would then look at, and I would say, well, what the days you want. And then I would take that and calculate it down and find which day has the more abundance numbers. Numbers for abundance are ones and sixes, eights and sixes, sixes and ones, things like that, where six is a good thing to launch. A one is a good time. Eight means abundance. You want to find those days that have that kind of vibration. And you would even look at, yeah, so you would even the day, it doesn't matter that it's like the actual day itself may not be abundant. It's the vibration of that day based on your cycle, not the calendar that we see that everybody uses. It's based on your cycle. So I hope that explains it.
That's why I did preface, right? I did say the easiest thing to do is actually to connect with Raschell, but to try to figure out the actual date. But could you please explain to us how it works?
So it's because everybody's in a different cycle. Not everybody's in a 4, not everybody's in a 5. You're all in different cycles based on your date of birth. So from that, I will calculate where you are and when is the best time for you to start your business. And then you look at the name of your business. Is the name balanced? Is it going to bring you abundance? Or is the name not going to bring you abundance? Again, you want sixes and eights for the destiny. Again, go to my YouTube. There is about, I think, 3 videos that explain a little bit about business, the name, and your date of birth. And from that, you can start to understand a little bit more about, oh, this is how this works. Oh, and it's funny because when I sit and talk to people, I will ask them questions on where they are in their life, and then I'll start to calculate, and I'll say, so a couple of years ago, did this kind of happen in this like general? And they'll be like, yeah, that did. And I'm like, okay, because that's when you were in this year and you were in this year. And so it was a, process. Remember what I said before, you have to go through the process in order to have the flower bloom and have the abundance. So I think that's the best way I can describe it is, yeah, you have to plant your seeds and water them and care for them and go through the trials and tribulations, learn the lessons, and then reap your harvest.
Yeah, I really like that because even that analogy, the tulip and like planting tulip in the winter, especially you wouldn't want to do that in Canadian winter, snowy, frozen ground.
No,
It definitely will not happen. But I love that
no.
analogy because it really makes someone like me who's not into numerology, who to it allows me to understand what it's all about and how important it is, right? To
Mm-hmm.
actually do certain things in certain timeline or certain numbers within your wherever it is that you are at, rather, right? Whichever
Mm-hmm.
number that you're at. So, could you give us some more examples, practical examples, with regards to how or where we can use numbers?
um, okay, well, I saw a couple of questions. So before I answer that, I think Gina
Oh,
asked a question. She asked something about
oh,
a
okay.
369. Um,
I think she said her birth chart. Yeah, she said my
she said,
birth. charting numerology is 369.
369. So that's interesting. So is that sort of maybe okay, I'm trying to think what that means.
Yeah, she says she loves numerology, always preferred over astrology.
So I'm not quite sure what that means, because I know when you add your date of birth, you have to bring it down to a single digit. That'll give you your expression. That'll tell you what your soul chose in this lifetime to express. I don't know what she means by the 3, 6, and 9, unless that's her month, day, and birth date. I don't know. So if she wants to chime back
Hmm.
in, I'm not quite sure. Then there was another question from Stephen, and I think
Yeah.
he asked something along the lines of how does that work towards human design, and is it solar or lunar derived? So it's so I don't know. I understand human design, but I don't know how it would relate. I don't know the correlation. And it is neither. It is neither solar or lunar. It is connected with the stars. So there is a wonderful book if you go, Dolores Cannon, and it's called Jesus and the Essenes. And in it, she talks about the Essenes, which were a group of people that were actually outside of the walls of Jerusalem that used to use a special, it kind of did, I guess it would maybe work with the moon, but it would kind of pick up the star alignment and the days, and based on that, the mathematical calculation, they would decide whether or not to bring two people together in marriage if they were based on their numbers, what their soul expressions were. Certain dates for events, dates for marriage, dates for whatever was happening at the time. And people were not actually brought together to do those things because they knew it would not balance out, right? And slowly this information has just been sort of buried and not really kept to the general public. And I've talked about this in my videos where I say, think about it. Think about why some of the most famous celebrities have changed their names. Why? Why did they change their names? Why do certain artists have certain numbers on certain records? It's because the vibration of each number and together, also blended together, give off a vibration of whatever you want to experience. The same with a name. When a name is calculated down, each letter has a vibration of a number, and overall energy of that name can either support you or it can hinder, meaning it cannot help you be in the positive way because it's not balanced. So the book actually explains a little bit about it. And so I guess it would be around the stars to answer your question, Stephen, a little bit, where they aligned everything. Because again, back to quantum physics, everything is aligned based on mathematical combinations. So I hope that
Hmm.
answered that. Now,
Okay,
back to
and
your
Gina.
question. Oh,
Oh,
Gina
actually,
is a
and Gina came back.
9. She said she is a 9. Yes, that would explain a lot. Yes. So that's lovely. I like that. And then you had a question, Lily. I'm sorry.
Oh, Stephen said, wonderful answer, wonderful
Oh, thank
answer.
you, thank you, thank
Good.
you.
Wait, I'm just going to read a couple more comments. Hi,
Hi, Dina.
Dina. Hey, hey. And Gina, my path is a 9.
Is
My soul
9.
expression is 3.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you had a question for me. I can't remember what you had said before because I had seen those questions popping up.
Yes, yes,
It
yes.
says,
A long time no see. Yeah, since last night.
since last night, Dina.
My question. Oh, yes. Could you give us some examples with regards to practical examples with regards to how we can use numbers and incorporate it into our lives? There must be so many examples.
What do you mean by use numbers? Like, how would we incorporate numerology, or just is that what sort of you're asking me?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Incorporate numerology. Like, for example, you did mention getting married, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
wedding date, right? That's probably a
Yes.
good time to try to figure out, what's a good number, or when is a good date? What is a good date
Hmm.
um, to do that?
So remember
Yeah.
that each person has a different expression. And then on top of that, you have a different cycle. So you want to do not what I did when I got married, was you want to make sure that when you choose to do something like marriage, that both of you are in like a 1 2 year, a 1 6 year, because each of you are going to be in different cycles. If
Mm.
someone's in a 1 and you're in a 6, those are both good times to start new things, or even a 1 2, because you're starting something new. You're beginning something new, right? So those are really important uh, for for event dates. Again, you would look at the cycle that you're in, and then we would have to go down to the actual month and then to the day to find out the most abundant days for you, the good days where the energy is for you, the best for you to launch something, for you to begin something like your book. You had asked me. So that, based on the year that you're in, which I believe, I can't remember off the top of my head, it was either 6 or 7, but I can't remember. The best is for you to, I looked at your cycle, then I looked at your month, and then I broke it down and looked at your day. For the book that the three of us did together, when I remember this specifically because it was in 2023. Now, Dina and I are actually in the same cycle. We are both in 2023, we were both in a 4 year. And I remember saying, this is not a good year for us to launch anything. I can't guarantee you that it's going to work. And then I confirmed it. No, I was like, let's just leave it. And so it literally sat for almost 9, 10 months because I said, no, just leave it. And then as soon as because I was the one that was putting it out, as soon as I moved into my 5 year and she moved into her 5 year, and I remember we looked at yours as well, and you were already in a good year. So we said, okay, now we can launch it all together. And we did. And the book did very well. But it was based on where we were in our cycles. And I was advised, no, do not do it in a 4 year. And there's nothing wrong with a 4 year. It's just 4 years. 3 years and 4 years are not good years to launch things, to start new things, to put things out. Because there again, it goes back to the cycle. You would not try again to go out, halfway in the middle of a hurricane and start planting your tomato plants. You'd be like, why? What are you doing? And it's because you would wait for a nice warm day where it's mild, not too hot, and you plant them, right? Because you've got to look for when the soil, meaning when the right environment and the vibration is good for you to put the seeds in the ground, to cultivate them. So again, 5 year is also good for taking action and beginning things. So it's between a 5 and a 6. Those are kind of good times. So I hope that answered a little bit.
Yes, actually, yeah. Because imagine if like a lot more of us actually use numerology on a regular basis to approach and to basically live with numerology, basically. Just imagine how life would be like, right? Incredible, like
Mhm.
how this world would be like.
It would. You would choose your partners based on their expressions more so than, you just meet somebody and you're like, and then you find out 10 years or 20 years later that you were never compatible. You would look at the expressions and how your expressions work with each other. So that's for relationships, partnerships, and business. I have done it. I have looked at partnerships. I've looked at people's vibration. I've looked at where they are in their life before I've got into partnership with them. Because if they're in a place in their cycle where they're going through a lot of challenges or turmoil because, it's just part of the cycle, then I may be a little less open to going and do a collaboration or go into partnership with them. So it's very advisable especially in business, to look at where you are, where your partner is. And if you have a business partner and you have a business together, then, and this is one of my clients has this, you want to look at where the husband, especially if you both signed the papers, you want to look at where you both are in your cycles. Was it a good time for both of you to do the business? Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if one's in a really bad year, meaning a year that has a lot of challenges to teach you lessons, and the other one started it in a one, then you may find that throughout the course of that business, you're constantly having these little challenges happen. And that's because the other person was in the year that had challenges. Um, so this is something you also want to look at. So I've been very careful with that. Um, and then even taking trips. I remember my dad. This was years ago. He was he looked at the numbers, and the numbers advised him not to travel. And so he didn't pay attention to them. And I believe he got on a plane. I can't remember exactly where he was going. I think this was in the early 90s. And he landed in Rome. I think it was in Rome. And their bomb went off in the airport.
Oh,
Yes.
yikes.
And I remember him writing me and saying, well, note to self, will not go against the numbers again. Shouldn't have traveled. So another one was my mother. He had advised my mom to be careful, and just take it easy, and didn't warn her ahead of time, because sometimes when you tell people things, they're like, oh, now it's in their head. He just told her to be aware and just pay attention to things. She ended up falling down a flight of stairs and breaking her ankle,
Oh,
or twisting it really bad.
wow.
Yeah. So, yep, a lot of those things can happen. So you just have to be aware. I've told this to a very good friend who I supported back in 2020 when she was launching her real estate business. I actually picked the name of the business for her, and then I helped her pick the days to launch. And I remember there was one day she said, oh, I'm going to launch this day. And I said, no, don't launch that day. And she said, why? I said, because the vibration is really bad. Just don't do it. She goes, no, everybody says we have to do it because it's such a great day. I said, okay, you do you. As I say, you do you then. And I remember she launched it, and I happened to be there, and I was in the other room, and I came out after, and she looked at me, and she looked down. She goes, all right, don't tell me so. I know. She got like 2 sales, and she was usually getting like 10 to 20. And I just said, it's because of the vibration of the day. It just wasn't, you know, in your favor to launch that day, to do the course, right? So
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm still going. I'm actually really good with numbers.
good. Then you really
I
like
I
it.
want to. Yeah, because honestly, like, I always feel like when I look at numbers or even strings of numbers, I actually
Hmm.
understand subconsciously or unconsciously what it's saying, because I know they're I feel as if they're messages because the vibrations behind it, right? I
Hmm.
feel like I know what it's saying. My soul knows what it's saying, but my
Hmm.
human's going reading it like 0, 5, 3. But as opposed to the vibration, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I know my soul looks at the strings or look at the number. My soul's like, okay, I know what it is. But my
Yeah.
human hasn't caught up yet. My human's going still looking at the actual number, the shape,
Right.
the actual, yeah.
No,
Okay, let's see.
numbers are crazy, and they can, like I said, if you check out the Essenes, anything on the Essenes, and you go back to the Vedas in India, you go back to the Babylonians, you go back to Pythagoras, all of them used it. It's a very, very old way of doing things, but it's based on the alignment of Gaia and the stars and everything in cycles, right?
Yeah. Okay, so Gina says the heart desire is 6. Oh, that's what she meant by 369. Remember how she says she's a
Ah,
369?
okay.
So she said
So
my
my
path
path
is
isn't, and my
9.
soul expression is a 3, and Okay.
and her heart desire is 6.
A
So that's what
6.
she meant by 369.
Oh, okay. And that's a good vibration as well to have. If you listen to Tesla, he says, if you understand 3, 6, and 9, you have the keys to the universe. It's because that vibration is very potent. Um, and there's also the odd and even numbers. So odd numbers are, I'm gonna try to remember it. They're creative, they're inspirational, they are temperamental, they're intuitive, and then even numbers are mathematical and intellectual and very precise and placid. They everything has to be done mechanically. That's why I said with a four person with the soul expression is very like everything has to be lined up, everything has to be detailed. They can't be rushed. They have to think thoroughly before they actually, okay, I'm ready to go now. Whereas a 5 is like, whoo, let's go. Let's get on that plane and go to Morocco tomorrow. Sure, I'm in for it, because they have that sense of freedom of the soul. So you see how, and then as you grow and you go from number to number, remember that the 9 encompasses all of those numbers. So it has everything. This is why the 9 kind of goes with, everything is trying to understand reality here, but also, connecting with the higher beings. It's sort of everything encompassed in one. So.
Yeah. I had demon fortune as I was focused on manifesting a fortune.
I love that. That's great. Well, you got a Dina fortune. Even Dina, when we looked at her name, she gave me her name, and I'll just quickly go into this a little bit about the name. I looked at her name and I said, okay, it's if you take out the middle part, I said Dina Fortune is way more balanced than having the middle name. I said, because it a little bit this gives you a much more balance with your birthday. And so now she is using that. So what is your
Yeah.
numbers are powerful, no doubt. Yes, they are, Gina. They're very powerful.
Yeah. They
hmm
are messages.
They are as well, and that falls into the angel numbers as well. Like you think about it, the vibration of the angel numbers as well. So, and
Yes.
myself and Dina and Lily all know about that. 444111. When we were together, we kept seeing repeating numbers constantly when we were in New York last year. So,
Yes. Yeah. And I think absolutely too, like the string of numbers that I was mentioning before, it also has healing. Like there are healing numbers, healing
hmm
energies, if you
hmm
can encode that
well, it's
as
a
well.
vibration, right? So it's a
Yep.
vibration, and so
Yes.
based on the vibration of that number, that's the expression that you're going to express. And so multiple numbers, different gigahertz, different hertz, you feel different things within your body. Today's my birthday. I'm launching a course and releasing a
Happy
book.
birthday, Lark.
What should I be paying attention to with my launch date for both? Um, well, I'm not going to do it on the fly because it takes a little bit more, but it will let me. What's today? Today's her birthday. Well, I'd have to look at the year as well because that has a huge part in it. But if today's her birthday, hold on, what's today? Today is September the 16th, right?
16th. Yes.
So,
24.
okay, so today is 6. All right. 7. I'm calculating this all in my head quickly here. That's a 7. So I'm getting, but I'm doing this really quick, so I could be off, so I don't want to say for sure. Um, I feel like you're in a 7-year based on me just quickly doing this in my head. I'm not as quick as my dad used to be. He was like a computer. Um, and based on that, I would have to have a conversation, ask you, when did you start like all of this? When did this process? Because it looks like you're in a 7 year, which is kind of like right on the cusp of kind of where we go 7 and 8, where the flower has started to bloom, like it started to come out, and then next year you move into an 8, where you get the abundance and the fruit of everything that the hard work you've put into. So, but that's all I can tell you right now. I'd have to calculate the launch date down, because I'd have to look at your cycle exactly. I'd need your date of birth, like a lot of things. So that's all I can give you, really, just based off of that little information. I hope that's okay,
Yeah.
Lark.
So so it basically means if she's a year 7, 8, then definitely she still have a little bit of time to release. She said she is releasing it soon. So
Okay.
it could be potentially this year, because we're already in
Mm.
September, right? So it could potentially be this year, or even if she launched it next year, if it's a year
Yep.
8 for her, it should be really good too. Is that
It
how it
should.
works?
Based on when she started
Mhm.
all of this. So
Okay.
based on when
Actually, still
she's
based on she started
when
writing maybe, or
when she started
her I
writing, when the ideas started to come, maybe it was attached to something else she was doing, and it just kind of trickled and kind of moved into this. But I'd have to know when she started all of this, because again, it goes back to what I said about the tulips. You would not plant the seed in the middle of winter expecting it to bloom a month later. When you plant the seed, sometimes they don't get the full abundance, because it did not go through the proper cycle that Gaia goes through, right? So it's just like anything. For example, if you started something in a 6 year, it's okay to start it, but do understand that you're not going to see massive abundance 2 years later, because you didn't go through the process. Remember, everything in nature, everything in Gaia is a cycle. So you would have a little bit of abundance, but then you might have to shift and change a few things, and then you'll replant the seeds again a few years later. And then if you go through that cycle, then that's when you're going to see much more abundance around whatever you're doing.
Hmm. And what's the best way for people to connect with you if they want a session or um, like for you to help
Yeah,
with
yeah. So you
regards to
can
the,
you
yeah,
can
what's the best way?
you can reach out to me at my website, which I believe is scrolling at the bottom. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube at Raschell Harlingten. You can message me there directly. I will respond and very responsive. We'll first have a chat to sort of see what you want. We can do that, and then see if it's workable for you. So if more people use this in their life, I mean, and I've been using it for so long. For me, it's innate. It's part of what I do. Um, yeah, I think that society, once they realize this, and I'll tell you this quickly. So in 2021, I did release a course around numerology. And I remember it did okay, but not great. And so I remember my beautiful friend Georgia Jean, who channels the Circle of Light. She's also on the Gaia Network. I did a session with her and the energies of the Circle of Light, and I remember hearing that it wasn't in the collective consciousness yet. And so at the time I was like, okay, so I have to wait. And so I did. And in the last year, I have seen numerology explode. And I'm like, wow. So I was like, that's what they meant, was it had to be, yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. So I know this is telling me that it had to wait for the collective consciousness to kind of download it, to understand about it, how it's sacred and
Mhm.
it's in all of us, and that we can all use it because it's part of Gaia. Um, and now I understand that, because back then I was like, well, what does that mean? So how long do I have to wait? So I left it. And now and that's why a lot of friends have kept kind of pushing me. You should teach this. You should share this more.
Which friend? I wonder which friend.
I don't know.
But yeah, honestly, just imagine we have all of these information available, readily available. It's all part of us, nature. It's just everything is just so close, just like even light language, right? Like
Hmm.
what it's like within our soul. We just have to, if you wish, just tap into it, right? If you want to speak it, it's there, and you can be totally awakened and remember who you truly are. And like the numbers you just said too, like all of this, it's in the universe, it's the energy, right? And just imagine vibrations, just imagine if you tap into it, it's like it's all around us.
Yes.
If we actually tap into all of these things that are easily, truly accessible, if we wish to tap into it, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. So incredible.
It's been around for a very, very long time. So it's not a new
Yeah.
thing that came out 20 years ago. We're talking 5, 6, more than that, thousands of years. And they used it because they knew how to work it in their favor, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it is kept very quiet, like, within the elite. It is not a thing that is shared. And I will tell you this,
Exactly.
and I will tell
Yeah.
you this, that, and I won't go and say who the society I'm with in order to learn this, but even in their writings, it says this is very sacred. Don't, it doesn't say don't share, but be careful who you share it with. And I remember reading that and thinking, why would they say that? And because it can also be used in a very negative way as well, right?
Mhm.
If you want it. So I
Mhm.
think that's why it's like a very sacred secret. It's very sacred to use, and you can calculate things to work in your favor, but you can also do it to cause stress and other things for other people as well, right?
Yes, yeah, it's true, right? It all depends on who and how you use it, who access it, and how.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think a lot of the, like what you said, exclusive, even governments probably, they use it.
All
And
the days, the names of the
they know,
businesses.
yeah,
Yeah.
they totally know about it and how it
So
works.
So this is an age-old superstition, but it's true. So think about it. If a boat has, like, if a shipping company has boats and the boats have a disaster and the boat is pulled out of the water, do you know that the sailors will not get back on that boat until it is renamed?
Hmm.
No. And it's
Oh,
very, very old superstition. They won't go back on that boat because it has to be renamed, because the energy of the name is the
huh.
destiny of whatever it is. This is why boats have names. Think about it.
Ah, huh.
They don't call them that just because they want to. It's because they have a vibration behind them. And that
Yes.
vibration, it basically guides their journey and where they're going to where it's going to end up. Right?
Yes. Yes.
You're welcome,
Wow.
Mark.
Yeah. You said this year. Yes, this year. Embracing, letting go, limiting beliefs. Yes, yes. Need to let that go. Um, and connecting
Oh,
with
you're
you,
welcome.
Lily. You're amazing. Oh, thank you, Lark. Thank you. Huge happy birthday to you, and
Happy
congratulations
birthday.
on your book. Yeah, and happy birthday, and congratulations on your book that you are working on, that you're planning to launch. That's so exciting. Um, let's see. Yes, I studied Kabbalah. Gina,
Uh-huh.
yeah, because
Okay. So
Gina
you
is
said,
actually,
okay.
mm,
Uh-huh. Yes. So I won't say too much, but let's just say that I'm along the same lines of the teachings that you studied as well. So it's very
yeah,
sacred.
yeah, because Gina is actually an oracle artist, and she actually painted two dragon paintings for me, and which is related to the book that I'm about to launch on September the 25th. Did I mention September 25th is a
You
launch
did.
date? Did I mention that Rochelle actually
I think you did.
helped me pick that date?
I
So she
did.
actually, there were two paintings. There's a backstory about the two paintings, which I will be talking about sometime this week. And hopefully she can join me, Gina, Gina. And if she can, it'll be really fun. We'll talk about the backstory. But yeah, so what else? Gina says, indeed, you did. So let's see, 4 more minutes. So what else would you like to share with us before we hop off?
Well, um, all I can say is this: is that whatever you choose, with your name, with your business, um, look into it, find out if it's balanced. I've had clients that have completely changed their names, or they've changed their first name, or they've changed first and last. And also, once you figure out whether or not it is a balanced name and it does work well with your birth date, know that even when you sign your name, it gives a vibration and puts it out into the ether. So if you
Hmm.
have a balanced name and you're scribbling, think about what are you putting out into the universe? A scribble. Whereas if your name is balanced, you're going to write it every single letter, so that vibration is going back out again and again and again, and it's manifesting what you want to see. So it's very important. The vibrations of our names, of our dates of birth, of how we write things. It's I'd like to share that because that is something I remember my dad and I talking about, and he said, "Stop scribbling your name." He said, "Write it out completely." So I did. Um,
Oh,
and so I started doing that, and things did change. And it's funny because I look at the original numerology chart that broke my name down and the personality of what my original birth name was. And then I look at what my name is now, and I'm not even the same person. Not even the same person. I look at all the traits and I think, wow, I'm not anything like that. And it's because the vibration changed, as did I, and I began to change. So the
wow.
name is the plane of the mind. And as I said at the very beginning of this, it gives you your characteristics, it gives you your health traits, it gives you your thoughts, it gives you your health issues, it gives you everything. It gives you your
Wow.
destiny and where you want to go. So even if your soul wants to express that, it will, but the plane of the mind will guide, or it can unbalance it, or it can balance it. So, and then it can go into a whole bunch of other stuff, because remember, this is the first 27 years of your life, you're under the influence of your birth month. So, and then for the next 27 years of your life, you're under the influence of your birthday. And then for the rest of your life, you're under the influence of your birth year. So you have all of these different vibrations that are all working within you. Hmm.
Wow.
It's a
Lots
lot.
of food
Yeah.
for thought.
It's
I'm
it's
going,
it's
I'm trying to make, yeah, I'm here, like, as you're talking, I'm like making mental calculations.
so it's all like layers, right? This is
Yeah,
why,
yeah.
again, I say it's important to see what you want. I mean, I'm sure you've heard in history people changing their name, going somewhere and becoming so wealthy and successful, where other people have changed their name and then become very poor or destitute, or their business has failed. It's the vibration. It goes back to the vibration. And that is my final
Hmm.
word.
Oh, wow, that's perfect timing too. It's literally exactly 6:30 on the dot.
There
Well,
you
thank
go.
you so much,
You're
Rochelle, for
welcome. You're
this
welcome.
fascinating hour and sharing with us all these important secrets of numbers. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us and
Hmm.
for connecting, for your comments and feedbacks, and just chatting with us. That was a lot of fun.
It was.
And yeah, it was so much fun. And last plug. We Dragon Activation Light Codes is coming out September the 25th. Stay tuned as I will be having a very special 24-hour promotion going on. So stay tuned for that link. And I will be actually, throughout this whole week, I'll be holding other interesting events as well that's surrounded, with the book launch. So stay tuned for that. And again, thank you so much, Raschell, for being
You're
here.
welcome.
Really, really, truly appreciate it.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
bye everyone. Bye.